Hey y'all, Shane Sams here. Super excited to bring you another episode of the Shane Sams Show podcast. Coming at you with a solo show today. I've been getting a lot of questions in my community lately about what my favorite books are. I get this question all the time. People always ask me, like, what are the five best business books for entrepreneurs? Like, if you started over today, Shane Sams, like, what would you read? Like, what are the five books that you've read? And I've read a bunch. There's like 100 books behind me. There's 100 books in this room over here. There's another 100 in a closet at the house. Like, we've read a lot of books over the last 10 years. So people ask me, like, what are the top five books that you would read if you had to start all over again? And like, what order would you read them in? So I thought, you know what? I'm going to record a podcast about this. And that way, not only will it help everybody to know which books they need to pick next, but I can have a nice, tidy answer to this question right here on the Shane Sams Show. So I'm going to talk about the five most influential books on me over my entire online business journey. There's a lot of different books in different categories. So I kind of had trouble picking like which book fits into what category. So I might actually mention a couple other books as we go here. But if I was literally starting over and I could go back in a time machine and I could grab myself by the shoulders, a decade ago and say, please read these five books first and in this order. These are the five best. These are my top five best business books for entrepreneurs. Okay. So the first book on my list is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Start With Why. This is probably Jocelyn's favorite book as well. My wife, Jocelyn, is an incredible entrepreneur. She's my business partner and my partner in life. And this is definitely on top of her list. Start With Why is an incredible book that really focuses you on why you're doing what you do. People have ideas, people try to start businesses, but if you don't know why you're doing it, if you don't have purpose, if you don't have mission behind it, when things get hard, and they will, when things mess up, and they do, you won't really have an anchor. You won't really have a North Star to kind of guide you through the troubled spots to keep you going on your entrepreneur journey. And in Start With Why, Simon Sinek talks about this. He talks about how you need to know why you're doing it. Like, why are you trying to start a business? Who are you trying to serve? What are you trying to do? What kind of impact are you trying to make? What kind of game are you trying to play in the marketplace? Like, why are you doing this in the first place? It can't just be for money. It can't just be so your bank account grows. It can't just be for you. Like, why? Why are you starting a business? Why are you becoming an entrepreneur? So if I was going back in time and I said, hey, you've got to read this book first, this is the book that I would give myself. I would say, read Simon Sinek, Start With Why. And if you've already got a business and you're already an entrepreneur and you listen to this podcast because you love listening to these successful people, these amazing entrepreneurs, authors, experts, maybe you listen to my Flipped Lifestyle podcast and you're really into online business and making money online, and you've already started your journey, this would be a great little reset, a great little refocus. Hey, get these five books and read through them real quick and make sure that you're kind of doing the things that they say to do. All right. So if I could go back in time after I read, Start With Why, if myself came back in that time machine and said, hey, I just spent the last month reading Simon Sinek's Start With Why. I really implemented it. I really thought about it. I really deeply integrated it into everything that I was doing. What should I read next, Shane? What should I read next? All right, this is the first place I had a tie. Okay, so number two is a tie. You can read either one you want, but number two is definitely a tie. The book that edged out, maybe 2A instead. Maybe it's 2 and 2A. The book that edged out the other one is The One Thing by Gary Keller. But a very close second, because they're so similar, these books are so similar, is The Pumpkin Plan by Mckellowitz. And really, this second category is all about focus. The one thing is about zeroing in on the one thing and saying no to all the other things. I think when we come from, the real world, and we come from 9 to 5s, and we come from corporate life, and we come from school, and we come from college, and all these things, we really get into this say yes to everything mentality, do whatever we're told. And it really becomes hard to say no. Like, you don't get to say no to your teachers. You don't get to say no in college. You don't get to say no to your parents. You don't get to say no to your boss. But really, success comes not from the things that we add, but the things that we say no to and that we take away. And the one thing is all about getting laser focused on that. what are the things that really move the needle in your business? What's the one thing in each category that actually makes a huge difference on your life or on your success? In the beginning of our online business, we tried to do everything. We tried to have a YouTube channel. We tried to have a Zoom. We tried to have a podcast. We tried to have a blog. We tried to do all these things. And we realized that you can't do everything. And the one thing that always moved the needle for us was our podcast. Doing a podcast opened every opportunity we have, whether it was to speak or to guest or to do anything else, to build an audience. Like the podcast was the one big thing that always made the biggest difference. So we decided, hey, we're a podcast company. We're going to focus in on this one big thing and use it to do everything else. The podcast will grow our email list. The podcast will grow our memberships. The podcast will produce opportunities for us in the future. And when we really focused in on that one thing, everything started to grow. The pumpkin plan is really simple. It's a story by Mckellowitz about how these farmers who grow these giant pumpkins do it because they focus on like one pumpkin. There's all the patch and they see the pumpkins, but they forget all the other pumpkins. They find the one with the most potential and they put all their effort into it. They're all in. There's no plan B. Like this pumpkin has to grow. They're going to water this pumpkin. They're going to do whatever to feed this pumpkin. They're going to make sure this pumpkin gets the sunshine. They're going to do everything else. And it's that same concept of really focusing in on one thing and putting all your energy, all your effort into that. I heard a great quote the other day by a guy named Alex Hormozi, who wrote another great book. I'll mention that one on another list. But Alex Hormozi said, do what's working more. And that's kind of the point here in this second category is, do one thing really, really, really well. Like go all in. Like don't try to throw all the mud on the wall. Go all in on that one thing so that you can have that focus. So this is kind of a category. If I had to read one, I would probably recommend The One Thing because The One Thing is such a big book. It's such a famous book. It's got a huge community. There's a lot of discussion about it online. But in this category, I would definitely put the pumpkin plan into. So the first category is kind of like your why. Why are you doing what you do? Like if you don't have a purpose and a mission and a vision behind whatever it is you're trying to be successful at as an entrepreneur, it's probably not going to happen. The second book, The One Thing, is kind of a category. It's like focus. You've got to get focused. Number 3 on my list is Story Brand by Donald Miller. So once you know your why and once you're super focused, you've got to go out into the world and tell a story. It's one thing to know your why. It's one thing to be really focused as an entrepreneur on being successful. It's a whole other thing to clearly tell the world about your why, about your idea, about this one thing that you're super focused on making successful. When I read Story Brand, it changed the entire way I think about business. Like clearly articulating your message from the beginning, from the first encounter is critical if you're going to have success, whether it's sales or marketing or teaching people how to play guitar or selling products, whatever it is, you've got to have a clear message. People have to know exactly what you do. And that's what you learn in Story Brand. And I wish that I had found this before I started our businesses, especially before we started Flip Lifestyle, because the story that we were trying to tell, while it was good, was not dialed in. It wasn't clear. And in Story Brand, Donald Miller teaches you how to get your story down to one sentence and then a paragraph and then an entire story if you had to tell it on a stage. And he really lays out how to clearly articulate what it is you do through your story. This book is so good. I've read this book I don't even know how many times. I go back to it as a reference all the time. I keep it out on my desk so that I can always look at it and remember that story is everything. Like you've got to clarify your message. Your customers will not listen to you if they don't understand your story, if they don't understand your message, if they don't understand how it relates to them. And without your story, without the story of your company, without the story that you're trying to create and the vision that you're trying to cast for your people, for your customers, for your business, for your team, nothing will happen good for you and your business. I've got it down so pat that I can tell our story. I can literally get in an Uber and in 2 minutes, I can tell our story of our brand to the Uber driver. I can get them interested in Flip Lifestyle. And my actual goal whenever I ride in an Uber or a Lyft is to get people to subscribe to my podcast. I literally ask the Uber driver for their phone. I go to the podcast app and I subscribe them to Flip Lifestyle and the Shane Sams Show. And then I hit play as I'm going out and tell them, hey, listen to this one on the way to your next job. Like that's my whole mission. But like that would not be possible. You know, you're only in the Uber for a few minutes, right? Like you that would not be possible if I couldn't clearly articulate our message and our story and our brand and what it is that we do out in the world. And I'm about 95% people. I'm about 95% on getting those Uber drivers into my story and my podcast. So this book works. You got to read this book. You got to read Donald Miller's Story Brand. So number one on the list, start with why. You got to know your why, your purpose, your mission, your vision, your dream. Number two is the one thing categorically, you got to have focus. You got to really focus on what it is you want to create. You can't do everything. You can't be everything to everyone. You got to laser in and get focused. Number three is story brand. You got to go into your entrepreneurship journey, into your business, being able to tell the authentic story of what it is you're trying to create and clearly tell your message to your customers so that they'll listen. And then number four is all about marketing. This is kind of the category for the four. Now I'm going to cheat here a little bit. Okay. Again, I'm a cheater a little bit. I'm going to cheat on this. If I had to pick one book, the best book that I've ever read on sales and marketing, I would definitely pick Russell Brunson's Expert Secrets. This single book has probably made billions of dollars for hundreds of thousands of people. Expert Secrets tells you how to create a true marketing funnel. How do you take people from discovery to purchase? It's really focused on online marketing. So it talks a lot about audience building. It talks a lot about email marketing, talks a lot about social media, talks a lot about webinars. But the core principles of the book will teach you how to sell anything, teach you how to market anything, how to get that attention. But you'd be crazy to just read Expert Secrets. You really need to read the trilogy that Russell Brunson wrote. .com Secrets was the first book where he talks all about funnels and the concepts of funnels and the customer journey through a marketing funnel. What's the sales process look like? Then you have Expert Secrets, which really gets tactical. .com Secrets is extremely strategic on funnels. Expert Secrets gets really tactical. I mean, it goes through a slide deck for a presentation on how to sell everything slide by slide. And I actually went to a mastermind at Russell Brunson's headquarters in Boise, Idaho. Me and Jocelyn, my wife, flew out there to ClickFunnels headquarters. We got to meet Russell Brunson. We got to see him teach Expert Secrets live over a 2-day period. And it is straight from the book. It was tactics. And we were in it and we were building slides and we went home and, made all of our money back basically on that trip. In just a couple webinars. So it's an incredible book, Expert Secrets, but you need to know the strategic overlay from .com Secrets to get into Expert Secrets. And then you really need that third book that he wrote. It's called Traffic Secrets, where he talks about how do you get people to come to your business? How do you get attention in the marketplace? So if you're going to read one of these, I would always pick Expert Secrets. It pretty much gives you exactly what you need to go out into the marketplace as an entrepreneur and you sell things from stage, sell things on a podcast, sell things from a webinar, sell things in email marketing. Like that's the book that you need to go out and do that. But if you're going to talk about categorically, my fourth category here would be like sales and marketing in general, especially for online business, because if you're not online, you don't exist in the modern world. And the trilogy by Russell Brunson, .com Secrets, Expert Secrets, Traffic Secrets. We'll call it the Secrets Trilogy. That's what I would definitely take back in my time machine and give it to myself because I stumbled through trying to figure out how to sell things online and to other people for 3 or 4 years until I finally got into these books. All right, so my first book is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. My second book is all about focus, the one thing. My third book is about telling the great story of your purpose, your mission, your vision, your brand, yourself, Story Brand by Donald Miller. The Expert Secrets or the Secrets Trilogy by Russell Brunson. So you know how to sell, you know how to market things. We're all in sales. We all have to sell things online. And then finally, the fifth book. And I will say without a shadow of a doubt, this book has made the biggest difference in my life outside of the Bible. I'm not kidding, people. This book changed the game, changed everything. I somehow discovered this book when it came out in 2015, right when it first came out, and it has been the biggest difference maker in our business and our entrepreneurship journey. Profit First by Mike Mckellowitz. Now, I gave Mike Mckellowitz the honorable mention in the second category, with the Pumpkin Plan, because I'm a huge Mike Mckellowitz fan. But man, Profit First. This book is crazy. Now, Mike's been on the podcast. If you want to go back on the Shane Sams Show and check it out, we brought him on the podcast to talk about Profit First. I've been on Mike's podcast as well, talking about our Profit First journey. Great podcast, and you go check out Mike's podcast for that as well. But Profit First is all about how to manage your money as a business owner. It's a super simple construct. Like he basically puts profit first. When you're looking at your money, you always take a percentage for profit, a percentage for the owner, a percentage for taxes, and a percentage for your operating expenses. And it's you got to get in the book and look at how he does it. Your amount of revenue is going to determine how much you put in each category. And there's definitely some science to the art to the science, right? So you need to get into the book to really read it. But I'm telling you, this book changed our finances. This book changed how we think about money. You know, we talk a lot about money mindset issues and how money, like none of us are really taught to run a business growing up. We don't really know how to manage money. We don't understand how money works. And this changed everything in our life about money. We learned how to manage our money. We learned how to have a profitable business. We learned how to never have cash flow problems. We learned how to always be square with the government. We learned how to always have money to pay our bills. We learned how to always have money to pay our team. And it's all packaged in this nice little book that gives you this fun system. Like, when was the last time you had fun looking at your money? Like, you had fun working in the spreadsheets. You had fun looking at where the money is. Well, me and Jocelyn, every single week, my wife, we get together and we look at our business and our personal finances every Wednesday morning that we're in our house. Like, sometimes we go on vacation or something, we might not do it that week, but every Wednesday, I'd say probably 80 to 90% of all Wednesdays, Jocelyn and I sit down from 9 to 12 and we look at our finances. We do profit first. We go through the book. We make sure all of our percentages in order. And it is the funnest thing that I do every single week. Like, we always feel confident coming out of that meeting. We always feel good about our money. The profit first meeting that we do, it shapes every other decision that we make in our business. And we never feel like we're just a rudderless ship out in the ocean being thrown around by the waves. Profit first gives you total control of your money. And if you have total control of your money, you have control of your time. And if you have total control of your time, you have control of your life. So if you're going to go be an entrepreneur, you're going to start a business, you're going to be a business owner, you really need to understand how to control your money from a business owner's perspective. You need to understand how money works. You need to clear up some of those money mindset issues. And Profit First is definitely the last book that I would take back in the time machine. All right, so I'm going to review this real quick. My number one book, and these are in order. They're not really like ranked better than the other books. This is just the order that I would recommend people read them in, right? If they were just starting out or they wanted to kind of recalibrate their business to be more successful. Number one is Start With Why from Simon Sinek. Number two is The One Thing. It's all about focus. And the honorable mention there would be The Pumpkin Plan by Mckellowitz. Number three is Story Brand with Donald Miller. You have a story to tell. You need to learn how to tell it effectively if you're going to be a great business owner and a great entrepreneur, a great marketer, a great salesperson. The Secrets Trilogy by Russell Brunson. .com secrets, expert secrets, traffic secrets. If you really want to understand how the online marketing game and just marketing and sales in general works, you need to read that. And coming in at number 5, Profit First, the best money book I've ever read for a business owner. All right, y'all, that's all the time I have for this week's Shane Sams Show. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to find some links to these books, we will put links to these books in the show notes of this episode. You can find those show notes over at shanesams.com. We've also got a ton of free resources over there for anybody that wants to start, build, and grow an online business. That's what I do for a living. I'm a podcaster by day, and I help people make money online by night, baby. Let's go. So if you love some great resources over there, check it out at shanesams.com. Also, I'd love to hear what you think about the Shane Sams Show. So if you listen to this show on Apple Podcasts, why don't you go leave me a 5-star review? Tell me what you love about the show. And hey, if you've got a question for me, I'd love to do this. I want to start answering some questions on the podcast from our listeners. We're growing every single week. We got a ton of people listening to the podcast. If you have any question about online business, relationship, anything else, put it in your review. When you go write that review, drop me a question, and I'm going to start reading those on air. So whatever question you have about business, success, leadership, team building, life, parenting, marriage, whatever it is, maybe you've got a question that you want me to ask one of my famous guests, go ahead and put that in your review. Review the show and then leave me a question, and I might choose yours and read it on air. If you listen on Spotify, Stitcher, Overcast, Pandora, anywhere else that you listen to the podcast, please go leave us a review. And if you find value in what we're doing here at the Shane Sams Show, if it gives you some good things to look forward to in your life, give this episode and other episodes a share on your social media network of choice. Or hey, why don't you tell a friend? Or you might just jump in an Uber and say, have you heard of the Shane Sams Show? Why don't you get in your next Uber or Lyft and you try to get the Shane Sams Show on that Uber or Lyft driver's podcast player. All right, y'all, I'm out. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, be consistent, be prolific, be relentless. Pick your stone up off the ground, cast it out upon the waters, and cause many ripples. I'll see you then.